Excited to have you with us. It's a beautiful morning, and we're thankful for our sponsors, Tanner Health System, Oak Mountain Academy, as we continue our back to school extravaganza. Last Wednesday, I guess it was, we had Oak Mountain Academy. Then we had Carrollton City Schools on Thursday, and then we had Carroll County Schools on Friday. Today we have the Lighthouse Classical Academy, and I hope to have Holy Ground Baptist Academy on too. And that should cover most everything that I know of. And we're honored to have in studio with us this morning from Lighthouse Classical Academy, Allison Earle. Good morning.
Good morning.
And, a lot has gone on in education in the past year and a half.
Yes, it has.
And it's continuing to go on. We invite y'all to not only tune in 106.3 and 1330 AM on the TuneIn app, but we're also on Facebook Live, so feel free to join us there. I guess for those of us who may or may not know what Lighthouse Classical Academy is, before we start talking about all the aspects of it and reflect a little bit on COVID and the past year or so, Lighthouse Classical Academy, relatable to homeschooling in our region in Carroll County. Tell us a little bit about it and its approach.
Yes, indeed. Well, we originally started as Lighthouse Classical Homeschoolers Academy, which is still our official title, but we did a DBA name change just to not confuse the colleges and universities as much. But we're a hybrid academy for homeschool students that serve students in the Carroll County region. We've had students even from across the state line. So we're not limited to just Carroll County. We serve students from 2nd through 12th grade. So about half of our teachers are parents of our students, but the other half are not. They all have at least a bachelor's degree, but most have an advanced degree, and we love what we're doing.
You used the word hybrid,
yes.
So expand upon that if you would. That's what I'm easily confused, as everybody knows, but that always really confuses me. I mean, it's a hybrid
Right.
with homeschooling.
Right. So we're not a typical group of just parents that come together to offer extracurricular activities. We actually offer really strong academics at Lighthouse. And since not all of our teachers are parents, that's part of the reason we're a hybrid. Also, since we do not meet all the descriptors of a private school in that we don't meet 5 days a week, we meet mostly 2 days a week, some classes once a week. So it's what we would call a university style.
So, but to be clear, so how many classes are at Lighthouse, and how many are being homeschooled, and how do you mix and match them?
The parents have the freedom to choose as many or as few classes at Lighthouse as they would like. So we do offer that freedom to them. They can take one class or they can take a full load of classes at Lighthouse. And we do this because it varies from year to year in a homeschooling family's life. So that's another reason we're hybrid, in that we don't have a minimum set number of classes that a student must take to be a part of Lighthouse.
Okay, we'll dig deeper into that part, because that's an important part. But I don't, for those of us who are new to Lighthouse Classical Academy, I don't want to get stuck in that at the initial. We'll come back to that. But during COVID for the last year and a half, a lot of parents now have become more involved in the education of their children. Did you see that? And what's your take on that new enlightenment, if you will, of parents' involvement in their children's education?
Well, we did see an increase in parent involvement in children's education, but that was more from the outside. Parents are already so intimately involved in their children's education in the homeschool world, that it was a continuation of what they were already doing. But as far as the families that we know a lot of them who are in the public or private schools, we definitely saw a much greater increase in involvement. And I think if there's anything good that came out of COVID, that would be one of them. That's the increased involvement and awareness of the parents of what their children are actually learning, what the actual content is in their textbooks, is a great thing.
Whose primary responsibility is it for the education of their children?
Well, our view is that it's the parents' responsibility.
And what does that mean? I mean, that's a pretty tall order.
Mm-hmm. Well, in the younger years, the parents are certainly, by and large, capable of guiding their children through the primary level of learning, where they're basically learning just facts of all their subject areas, learning how to read, and then using reading to learn. And once they hit the junior high, and particularly the high school years, some of those classes and subject areas can become a bit more daunting for parents to tackle alone at home. So the parents, when the children get older and reach that level where the parents aren't necessarily comfortable with those subject areas, then they look for outside help, people who do have extra knowledge and experience in those subject areas that they may not be comfortable with.
Before we go to our first break, the word classical is, I'm looking at this and I go, well, it could just simply be Lighthouse Academy. So why the word classical?
Well, classical describes both a methodology and a content of what we teach. And it's important for us to know that those who approach Lighthouse understand that we do use a classical model as far as the way we teach classes, but also use that as a measuring stick for what curricula we choose to include in our classes. And I'll be happy to describe how we, what the classical model looks like.
Okay. Go ahead.
Sure.
Are we talking about just reading, writing, and arithmetic?
That's part of it.
Okay.
Certainly part of it. The classical model of education is really divided into 3 levels. So you have the primary level, or grammar level, as it's called, then the logic level, and the rhetoric level. Ooh. So at the grammar level, they're learning the facts. They're learning the names of the states. They're learning the names of the cell parts, all the organelles. But in the logic stage, they're starting to connect the dots, connect the pieces of information together. And then the rhetoric stage is where they learn to apply and articulate all that they've learned in the grammar and the logic stage. And a lot of times we tend to, in education, stop short of the rhetoric phase. And they don't really learn to fully apply and articulate what they've learned.
Our guest this morning is Allison Earle with the Lighthouse Classical Academy. You can find out more at lighthouseclassical.com. I've got a lot more questions, and we're going to hear a lot more from Allison Earle when we get back after these messages.
Health is a journey. It's making better choices, even when it's not easy. It's taking care of yourself and the people you love. At Tanner Health System, we're there for you with every step, with primary care, heart care, cancer care, women's care, orthopedics, surgical services, and so much more. We're dedicated to helping you live and feel your best. So let's get on that journey to health. You've got places to be for many years to come. Find us at tanner.org.
At Oak Mountain Academy, our daily schedule includes convocation, prayer, and the Pledge of Allegiance. By doing so, we build a family-like community where all students grow and flourish and personal faith is encouraged. Through community service and a historical approach to biblical study, our students are taught the value of the warrior way, honesty, respect, and responsibility. Oak Mountain Academy. We are a family creating legacies. To learn more, visit oakmountain.us.
Good morning. Welcome back to the Community Voice. I almost forgot the name of the program. Hope you're doing well. It's a beautiful day. I've got a lot going on. I hope y'all have a great day, and we're thankful to have in studio Allison Earle, head of school for Lighthouse Classical Academy. And if I can get this thing to work, we're also on Facebook Live, so anything you want to post there, that'll be fine. You know, I've always heard all these years when it comes to homeschooling, almost the knee-jerk criticism is, well, yeah, homeschooling, yeah, but I want my kid to experience some socialization and develop some social skills. You can't do that at homeschooling. How do you respond to critics like that?
Oh boy, the socialization criticism is one of the oldest criticisms of homeschooling and probably one of the easiest to debunk. Children are, when they're homeschooled, have some of the busiest social schedules of any kids I know. They're constantly going and doing. The difference is between homeschool students and, say, public or private school students even, is that they're not just socializing primarily with children their own age. So they're socializing with a wide range of ages. Might be children younger, children older, lots of adults. So they generally have far more robust social skills than even children who are continually in classes with just their age group. So the children, the families I know are constantly on the go. They have a very rich social experience, and sure, you're going to find some that are very shy and don't like to mix with the group as much as others, but that's the exception rather than the rule.
You know, there are a lot of horror stories about school and, you know, bullying, the mean girls, the trauma, kids being mean to other kids.
Sure.
Homeschoolers, are they pretty well escape all of that?
I wouldn't say they escape it completely because, at the end of the day, we're all sinners.
Right.
And that includes our homeschool students and our homeschool families. And they're still, at some point in life, somewhere, and it may even be in their homeschool community, are going to experience someone that's unkind, that wants to try to bully or, marginalize a particular person for one reason or another. Unfortunately, that's hard to escape anywhere we go.
Let's talk a minute about curriculum and academic. Homeschoolers obviously have, in my experience, have been well known for academic excellence. Mm-hmm. Tell us about the academics and the curriculum. How is it chosen, et cetera, et cetera?
The academics at Lighthouse, we're geared toward those who want to attend college or university. So we are college preparatory. The way we choose curricula is based on the content and quality. We don't use a single vendor or single line publisher for our curricula. We use a wide variety because what one publisher puts out for a particular subject area may be very good quality, but we may use one from a different publisher for a different subject area. So content and quality, we want to make sure that what we use prepares students for post-secondary work. So that's the metric we use for choosing our materials.
Now, the curricula is from a decidedly biblical worldview?
Most of it, but not all of it. We do not shield our students from secular materials, secular books. For example, this coming year I'm teaching a high school humanities class called Antiquity, and in it we read original source materials from the likes of, Plato, Aristotle, who were not Christian and did not have a biblical worldview. But we feel it would be quite a shame and would hurt our students to not expose them to that at this level the high school level, when we can discuss it and digest it with them and tease it apart and teach it through the lens of a biblical worldview.
Yeah, and likewise, American history,
Absolutely.
original documents.
Absolutely. We use copious amounts of original documents, original source material, rather than read a textbook about the original documents. We read the original documents.
How are parents in this hybrid kind of approach? How are they integrated into it, and how do you determine how many days a child, student is at Lighthouse and how many days he or she's not?
Great question. We are wholly dependent on parent involvement because legally all of our students are homeschool students. And by law and according to the Georgia Accrediting Commission, through which we're accredited, they must spend at least 60% of their learning time at home or being directed directly by the parents. So that's really what frames our schedule, or the legal requirements. But they really, we could not do what we do without the parents' involvement. Now, granted, as the child gets older, the parent may not be as much directly involved in the instruction. Say if the student is taking physics or chemistry, the parent may not be comfortable with that subject matter.
Comfortable is a nice way of putting it. I'm not comfortable with that question.
Sure, and a lot of parents aren't, or they might not feel comfortable doing dissections on the kitchen island.
I never was. I avoided that completely.
That's right. Most aren't.
Ugh.
But they can still be involved in their children's day-to-day learning. There's the power of the question. Hey, tell me about what you're learning. So explain that to me, and have the student explain it back to the parent. That helps strengthen the student's understanding when they have to explain it back to mom or dad.
Let's talk a little bit about the great state of Georgia. More than half the state budgets for education, and an enormous amount of property taxes go to education.
Indeed.
So how does the state of Georgia view homeschooling these days, and specifically testing? What's all the hoops that you have to jump through to satisfy the state?
Well, the state of Georgia has some of the most homeschool-friendly laws in the country, so we're really blessed here. Even Alabama has laws that are a little more strict than Georgia does.
Really?
Really.
How about that?
Yes. So when my husband and I first started homeschooling back in, 1995, the requirements were a bit more stringent on homeschoolers in Georgia. We had to turn in a monthly attendance report to the local Department of Education, and then we had to turn in progress reports at the end of each year to the state. Then later the law changed. We had to turn in attendance reports monthly to the state. And when they were inundated with all these attendance reports, it went, hold, let's just do that yearly. Just sign that y'all actually did 180 days of learning, and we'll be happy. So we really, as far as the testing, they no longer even require you to report the testing scores like they used to. When we began, it was required to administer a standardized test, such as the ITBS, to your children at least every 3 years. Now, we still do that, and Lighthouse offers that yearly for our parents.
You mentioned college preparatory, but I guess you do have some students who, either go into the military or the workforce or a 2-year college. But is it not true that universities and colleges tend to look favorably on homeschool graduates? Yes,
most of them do. In fact, now many of them have a dedicated recruitment officer that is just for the homeschooled communities. So that's a big change. That definitely is something that's shifted since 95 when we first began. When we first started, you still had to submit a portfolio of the 4 years of high school work with samples, end of course reports, grades, all that sort of stuff. And even when my older son entered one of the state universities, his heart's desire was to be a cadet in the cadet corps. There. They required not only a higher score on the SAT, extra testing, but also the portfolio, old-fashioned portfolio. So there's still some remnants of that left in the state and around the nation. But by and large, the attitude at the university level toward homeschooling has definitely shifted.
They say the best way to approach, or some people say the best way to approach life is you just never stop learning.
That's right.
You're always learning. Homeschool students do develop a love for learning, do they not?
Yes, that is one of our key goals for our students, is that they develop not only a habit of learning, but a love of learning. Now, they may not love chemistry, right?
No one
that's
loves
right.
chemistry,
Significant figures dog them all year, and stoichiometry, but our desire is that they develop a love of learning and that they never become incurious.
Our guest this morning is Allison Earle, head of school for Lighthouse Classical Academy, lighthouseclassical.com. Lighthouseclassical.com is the website. We'll be back with more with Allison, but first this word.
Health is a journey. It's making better choices, even when it's not easy. It's taking care of yourself and the people you love. At Tanner Health System, we're there for you with every step, with primary care, heart care, cancer care, women's care, orthopedics, surgical services, and so much more. We're dedicated to helping you live and feel your best. So let's get on that journey to health. You've got places to be for many years to come. Find us at tanner.org.
At Oak Mountain Academy, our academic excellence shines through innovation and a personalized educational experience. Our pre-K 3 through 12th grade environment offers a family-oriented atmosphere. We are an independent school with faith-based values and an academy honor code. Our academic standards prepare our students for college and beyond. I'm Patrick Duran, headmaster, inviting you to visit us on the mountain or at oakmountain.us. Come see how our warriors are creating legacies.
Good morning, and welcome back to the Community Voice. I'm Steve Graddick, your host. So we have Allison Earle, head of school, Lighthouse Classical Academy, lighthouseclassical.com. There are a lot of reasons, I suppose, for someone to want to homeschool. We hear the most about, a Christian family, Christian parents that, like I said, want to bring up a child with a biblical worldview. What do you tell parents who are considering it? I mean, it's got to be, like me. I want a good student in school. I mean, it was a disaster. And the idea of, for a lot of parents who weren't good students, we don't hear about those. We're kind of under the radar. The idea of teaching their kids or homeschooling their kids can be extremely intimidating.
Sure.
How do you reassure parents who have a heart for homeschooling but don't feel they have the academic background to accomplish it well for their kids?
Well, I would say count the cost, and that's probably not what people would expect me to say first off the bat. It is a commitment, and it does require time. It requires you to be involved, and even when the students are older, it's the trust but verify to see to make sure that they have actually completed the work, that they don't have questions that they're hesitant to ask. But if your children are young, it's often true, and I've heard so many homeschool parents say this, that you tend to learn so much that you never learned when you were coming up through school. My husband and I both came up through the public school systems.
I never thought of that.
Oh,
Isn't
yeah.
Isn't that cool?
Yeah, and so I can't tell you how many bits of information, new facts, new ways of looking that I learned while I was homeschooling my children.
So all those years I wasn't paying attention, now I could go back and really learn it.
There you go. You really can. You're
smart
never too
enough
old.
now that I was, too stupid then to learn it.
Right. You're never too old to learn.
Wow.
And it's quite a bonding experience to be learning alongside your children. Now, granted, half the time I was, only one step ahead of mine when it came to certain subjects that I had not been taught in public school. But I would say, even on your worst day, there's no one that's going to care more about your child's education than you.
That's a pretty powerful statement.
Mm-hmm.
So Lighthouse Classical Academy comes alongside, integrates with homeschooling parents
Yes.
to make the experience richer and more effective, correct?
Right. That's correct.
Yeah, we've only got about a minute left, but what inspired you to into this work, into this effort?
Well, when our two oldest children, we have 6, were about to enter high school and junior high school, all of their friends that they'd grown up with homeschooling were all going into the public school because of how daunting it seemed to tackle high school. And I thought, there has to be more of us out there.
Right.
Surely if we help each other out,
Right.
we can get these kids through high school successfully.
Any regrets of having done it?
Not one.
Okay.
Not one.
Well, our guest this morning's been Allison Earle, head of school, Lighthouse Classical Academy. I assume the website, lighthouseclassical.com, is the place to go to make contact, to
Yes, sir, it is.
find out more information, and for any parents who may be, or students even, who may be interested in the homeschool route.
Absolutely.
And y'all are located on where?
Highway 27.
Okay.
We're about a mile south of Walmart, next to Ag South.
Next to Ag South, across from Sun South.
Sun South,
Next
right.
to Ag South, across from Sun South.
That's right. If you see the John Deere tractors,
we
you know
must be in
you're there. That's right.
All right. Well, thank you, Allison, for coming in. It's let's see, lighthouseclassical.com and Lighthouse Classical Academy. And we invite y'all to check it out, and we'll go from there. And then we've only got one academy left to go. Hopefully Holy Ground will be on in the near future. And we thank all of y'all and for what you're doing for the children in our region. Thank you.
Thank you. And thank you for having me.
Our regards to your physician husband.
Thank you very much.
God bless you both. And thank you for listening to the Community Voice here on WLBB Carrollton.